Now let's talk a little bit about this statistic that upper leadership only knows about 40% of the activities that the front line is doing. This is actually a huge disconnect between what leaders think they know and what they actually know. If you were to talk to most leaders, they would tell you they know everything that's happening at the front line. And even if they are completely honest with themselves, they might tell you that they know 75% of what's going on at the front. But to know less than half of what's going on at the front line as an actual number is concerning. It shows that the hubris of the leadership to think they know what's happening is actually causing problems. Because if I, as a leader, think that I know what's happening and actually I only know what 40% is happening, I'm probably making decisions about what's working or not working or what needs to change that are incorrect or at least incomplete. So how do we fix this? Again, we come back to process. If we get to a weekly accountability session where the front line is talking about what they're doing and leadership is listening to what's actually happening, then you're going to have a much higher percentage understanding of the actual behaviors and activities that are taking place. At the same time, the front line feels heard. They feel like what they are doing matters and that leadership cares. And then oftentimes when the changes come, it helps the front line because they feel like, well, leaders have been listening and they understand what we're doing. And so these changes take these things into account. The very worst thing that can happen is when a frontline worker hears about changes that obviously haven't taken into account the workflows and the work processes that person is involved in on a day-to-day basis. That's a very frustrating and uh, very debilitating kind of outcome. It makes me feel like I'm not important enough that somebody takes the care to understand what I'm doing. So again, these linkages, if you really think about it, clarity in an organization comes from linkages, and it's so interesting because most of the time when we're with a company and we're working with them, the very first complaint they have is we need to improve our communications. And you can see why this is true. People just don't understand what other people are doing or how they're working. But the way you improve communications is to create specific process links for that communication to happen. Because if you're just waiting for it to happen organically at the water cooler, it's never going to be sufficient. It's never going to be detailed enough, and it's never going to be often enough. So, what you need to do is create those processes by which that communication happens. And in our case, doing this weekly game review is critical because it allows everybody to have their part and communicate their part on a weekly basis so that there can be feedback. This is what's working, not working. This is what I like, I don't like. This is what's happening based on the things that we're doing.